Good afternoon, my dear students. So today, once again, I am going to discuss and talk to my children with one of my favorite chapters called the Rattrap. Now, you may have some objection that every time I come out for making some video, I call it my favorite, one of favorite chapters. That's only because the class 12 syllabus, they have really some of the very nice chapters of both the books, Flamingos and Vistas of class 12 English. And this one is from Flamingo of class 12 English book, and the title of this chapter is the Rattrap. And why do I call it this chapter one of my favorites? Because the kind of message it sends across, that's really nice. That's really nice, the message it sends across. It says that through emotion of love and acceptance, we can completely reform a person. Right? What is missing from our society today is that acceptance. We are not ready to accept. Right? So a person may have some flaws, a person may have some negativity into him or her, and in spite of that, if we show some kind of compassion, if with the emotion of love and acceptance, we accept the person, so that person will really reform himself or herself completely. That's the one message. And the other message, one another message we find in the chapter is that every person is born with some essential kind of goodness, and that essential goodness might get covered for some reason, but that essential goodness can never be the scrapped out of the mind and heart of a person, and that essential goodness can anytime awakened from the mind of can be awakened into that person with our own good deeds. So that's the message. That's why I call it this really nice. Let us talk something about the writer and the author of the chapter. So the author and the writer of the chapter is Selma Lazaroff, and she is a Swedish writer. And the appeal, the kind of theme she has in her stories, which has an universal appeal, and for the similar reason, her stories have been translated into so many languages. And the way she narrates her story, she has a it's a manner of narration of fairy tale, and the story is set in the middle of the mines of the Sweden, which is very rich in iron ore. And Selma Lazaroff was the first woman to have won Nobel Prize for Literature in 1909. That we have talked something about the author and the theme of the chapter. Now let us straightway get into the chapter. What the chapter is talks about. So the chapter, into the center of the chapter, you might say the protagonist, you might say the antagonist, because we find that he is a man who is not flawless, who has some flaws into him in the beginning, but then by the finally towards the end of the chapter, because he got the acceptance, he got the love, and that's why the essential goodness which was in the dormant form got awakened, and he finally converts into a protagonist, the superhero of the chapter. So the chapter is about a Rattrap sailor paddler, and he lives a very lonely and miserable life. He lives a very lonely and miserable life. That's only because his earnings are very limited, and at times he has to resort to thievery and begging to make both ends meet. He is dressed in rags, he is physically very frail, and he looks starved. But in spite of that, during one of the wanderings, when he is out to sell the rat trap, he starts knitting some very wonderful ideas, and he starts comparing the world as a rat trap. Now, how can the rat trap could be a metaphor for the earth? So let us discuss. And before I really start describing the chapter, I want to discuss something, that how does that rat trap works. So you know that in every house, in every household, we find rat and mice. That's a very common thing, and it's very disturbing, right? It causes a lot of damage, and that's why let us I want to discuss how this rat trap functions. What is this mechanism? So rat trap is a closed structure which is all closed from the four side, and there is one opening entrance, and into the entrance, in the middle there hangs a wire, which is a hook, actually basically a hook, and into that we put some kind of bread or potato or cheese, and that works as a bait, B-A-I-T, bait. And and we place that rat trap somewhere which is frequently visited by the mice or the rats. And when that rats find that cheese or bread or potato hanging easily in the air, the mice go to habit, and the moment mice go to habit, the bait is moved, and the door of the rat trap is closed, and the mouse is trapped. Now, how can we say that the rat trap is a metaphor for the earth? So the earth, is also works as a metaphor on a larger scale. That's because that, see, every person, every living being, every human being wants to earn money, right? Wants to have name and fame. But for that, there is a proper way. There is nothing wrong for thinking of earning more money, but there is a proper way. There is a right way. You cannot have you cannot take the wrong way for earning instant money, right? So in a similar way, some of the people, this world is a rat trap, and the way cheese in the form of a bait attracts and tempts a rat, in a similar way this entire world, from the different means and different ways, it offers temptation to people, and the people go and try to have it. They are trapped, and the life is spoiled and ruined and it's destroyed. Now I have explained what is this rat trap and how can we compare, how can we call this rat trap as a metaphor for the earth. Now let us go into the chapter. So as I have told you, that rat trap is a very poor person. He lives a lonely life. He is very miserable. He doesn't have any permanent house to live. So during one of his wanderings, he had to take shelter, and he was not expecting that he would be given the shelter. But when he knocked at the door, he was welcomed by a crofter. He was an old man, and that crofter was very hospitable in his treatment with the Rattrap seller. He offered whatever he had, food, and he talked a lot because the crofter was very lonely in his life. And the crofter also showed him 30 kroners. Kroners is a currency for the Swedish, and showed him 30 kroners which he has saved after selling milk of his cows. And he showed him, because only that the crofter was thinking that the rat trap might not believe that he had 30 kroners. For that reason, he showed him those 30 kroners. And they slept at night, and early in the morning both of them, they started on their own ways. But as we know, that Rattrap seller had his eyes on the 30 kroners, so he came back immediately, and it was that pouch into which the 30 kroners was kept. It was put next to the window, and he punched the window. He punched the window to break it. He took the pouch and he put those 30 kroners into his pocket, placed back the pouch, and he went on. Since he had stolen money, so he was scared of getting caught, and that's why he was not taking the highway, and he started taking his way through a forest. It was all secluded, and after a lot of wandering, he was not able to come out of this forest, and he was trapped in the forest. And then and it was a winter season, then again it grew dark, and he had to take shelter there. Now he took a shelter at a forge. It was a kind of factory where that some hard work, iron melting things were going on. It was a forge, and that forge was at night. It was visited by the iron master, the owner of the forge. And when the owner of the forge came, it was night, light was not enough. So in that dim light, that iron master took this Rattrap seller as his friend. And the name of his friend was Captain von Estelhay. So he mistook him. He was mistaken, and he offered the Rattrap seller, because the iron master was not very happy. The iron master thought that his friend was having a tough time, and that's why he offered to take him for the Christmas. But the Rattrap seller understood that again it was something wrong, and if he went over there, certainly he would be caught. So he went. He didn't go. But this iron master going to his home, he informed his daughter, and the name of his daughter is Edla, and he said, daughter, today I have seen a friend of mine. He's in a forge. He's having a very tough time, and I offered to take him, but he refused. So can you go and you see and you try to persuade him, if you could bring him to our house. So the daughter came this time, and daughter spoke in a way, Edla spoke in a way that he couldn't deny, and the Rattrap seller came. Now at night he slept. Early in the morning he had a shower. He had clean shaved. He was dressed in a nice dress of the iron master, and the iron master was waiting for him at the breakfast on the breakfast table. Now it was broad daylight, and in the broad daylight there was no point that that ironmaster would take him for his old friend, and he was exposed. And then ironmaster started shouting that, who are you? You are an imposter, you are not my friend, and I'm going to call the sheriff, and I'll hand over you to the sheriff. At this, the Rattrap seller said, at the first place I was not coming, you forced me to come, I was not coming. And at this, the Rattrap seller gave him a philosophical thought that here you are doing a mistake, because that at time I also did the mistake. But here his daughter Edla come to intervene and said that poor man had no place to go, and since we have promised him I stay for the Christmas, so he can stay here till the Christmas time. And listening to this, the ironmaster got convinced, and he said that it's okay, he was allowed to stay. Now he did not have much thing to do. The most of the time he preferred to sleep, and most of the time he kept on sleeping. And the father and daughter, it was Christmas time, so they went on decorating the Christmas tree and all. And the next day after the Christmas day, this father and daughter, they went to the church to offer the prayer. Now going to the church, they heard that there was a Rattrap out seller, and he committed a theft. He stole the crofter of his 30 kroners, and they understood the man who was at his home, he was a theft, he was a thief. And they started coming back, and they was in a hurry. On the way, on the halfway, they met their servant, and when the ironmaster asked the servant if that person was still at home, so the servant said that no, the person was not at home, and he left. And this father and daughter was damn sure that he must have taken all the valuables of the house and must have ran away. But reaching to their house, they found that the Rattrap seller was not there, but he did not take anything. Rather, he left three things. He left a rat trap as a gift for his daughter Adla, for treating him so nicely, and he also left back 30 kroners to be refunded back to the crofter, and he wrote a letter for Adla, and into that letter he thanked Adla for treating him as a captain von Stelhe. Though he was not a captain, but still he got a nice treatment of a captain. So that's a beautiful story. And at the end of the letter, the Rattrap sellers signed as von Stelhe, because he was given a treatment of a captain. So that's a beautiful message of the story, that through emotion of love and acceptance we can reform any person, and the essential goodness in a person can anytime be awakened by our own good. So that's a beautiful story. Read it. Thank you, and God bless you.